Commander Jake Sullivan stood rigid on the bridge of the UEES Defiant, eyes locked on the distant spectacle unfolding beyond Pluto's orbit. Massive alien ships shimmered into existence, monolithic shapes, unlike anything humanity had encountered. Their hulls gleamed with a smooth, seashell-like texture, yet they loomed like cities adrift in space. 23 of them hovered silently, colossal and inert, like ancient titans dreaming in the void. Beside him, Captain Lisa Martinez clutched a transmission pad, her hands trembling slightly. Her expression was tight with unease as she reread the message. The alien greeting had been flawlessly translated into English, yet its core meaning chilled her. They called themselves the Galactic Confederation, and their words bore a veiled threat. Jake followed her gaze to the pad. Despite the courteous tone, their intent rang clear. They demanded Earth's surrender. Not merely surrender, but submission to something termed the Integration Protocol. In 72 hours, humanity was to fall under alien governance. Around the bridge, the crew moved with practiced quiet, but tension gripped the air. Lieutenant, Sam Carter kept watch on the strange fleet while Ensign Amy Foster tracked their subtle motions. Everyone understood what was at stake. First contact had arrived, and it bore no resemblance to science fiction dreams. From Mars Command, Admiral Ryan Cooper's voice crackled through the comm. Calm, deliberate, but edged with iron, he had spent 3 decades preparing for this day. Across the solar system, hidden weapon arrays activated. Secret shipyards within the asteroid belt launched humanity's first wave of warships. Lisa began to read the message aloud for the crew. The Representative Ambassador Zeeth Kar of the Velnari Empire spoke on behalf of the Confederation. 12 alien species had ruled the galaxy for millennia, and their law was absolute. Any new species that reached spaceflight must undergo integration. It meant surrendering all weapons and relocation to assigned colony worlds under alien oversight. Their message described humanity with patronizing kindness, as if Earth's people were infants who'd only just discovered fire. They offered safety, but the price was freedom, guidance, so long as humanity obeyed without hesitation. Defiance wasn't considered. No species in recorded galactic history had ever refused the protocol. Jake stared out through the bridge viewports at the looming alien fleet. The ships maneuvered with eerie precision, like veterans of countless integrations. Their technology was beyond anything humanity had conceived. Glimmering energy shields encased each craft, and their weapon systems defied human classification. Dr. Elena Cruz stepped onto the bridge, holding her initial findings. Her expression was grim. The data was astonishing and horrifying. The Confederation's weaponry could level entire cities in moments. Their starships moved between systems in mere days, not years. Most troubling, their defenses appeared almost impervious. Yet something in the communication logs caught Elena's eye. The structure of the alien language hinted at a civilization radically different from Earth's. It was built on hierarchy, enforced obedience, and total control. Peace, in their view, came through submission and order. Captain Lisa Martinez began crafting humanity's formal reply as Jake kept watch on the alien fleet through the sensors. The enemy vessels remained in position, hovering like gods awaiting acknowledgement from mortals. Every movement they made radiated condescension. Then Admiral Cooper entered, carrying documents few had ever laid eyes on, files marked under Project Pandora. It was Earth's most closely guarded secret. Across the solar system, hidden outposts contained weapons and countermeasures no alien had dreamed possible. Humanity had not been idle. Since the first signals left Earth's atmosphere, preparations had quietly begun. The Admiral's strategy was bold and final. Under no condition would Earth kneel. If the Confederation wanted dominion, they'd have to seize it through blood and fire. But Earth possessed strengths the aliens had never encountered. Every soldier on the planet carried the legacy of pursuit, descendants of those who tracked prey across savage wilds. Every scientist bore the instinct to defy the impossible, not yield to it. Jake turned to the response Lisa was crafting had drafted for the alien ambassador. The message was blunt and unwavering. Humanity would not accept the integration protocol. Earth would remain sovereign, and humans would retain both their weapons and their freedom. If the Confederation disagreed, they were free to try and take it by force. Lieutenant Sam Carter reported additional alien vessels entering the system's edge. The arrival of reinforcements pushed the total enemy fleet beyond 200 ships. Each was larger than anything in Earth's arsenal, but Admiral Cooper showed no fear. The secret weapons he'd built were made for opponents who considered themselves untouchable. The Confederation replied within hours. Ambassador Zakara's tone had shifted sharply. The message was no longer diplomatic. The Confederation would not tolerate a species rejecting integration. It would set a precedent too dangerous to risk, one that might unravel their carefully maintained order. Humanity had 72 hours to reverse its decision or suffer the consequences. Jake glanced at Admiral Cooper as the threat played over the speakers. The Admiral actually chuckled, eyes glittering with anticipation. 3 decades of planning were about to be put to the ultimate test, against an empire unaccustomed to defiance. They had no clue what humanity truly was. Dr. Elena Cruz kept reviewing movement logs and transmissions. Her findings revealed a network of species untested by real war. The Confederation's dominance came not from bloodshed, but from sheer technological advantage. They had never faced an enemy that resisted even when hopelessly outmatched. Captain Lisa Martinez began issuing orders to Earth's commanders. Across the system, preparations accelerated. Colonel Ben Turner reported that Mars's defense network was primed. Major Diana Bell confirmed asteroid-based weapons were fully functional. Commander Troy Adams finished locking Earth's orbital platforms into combat readiness. The 72-hour timer ticked down. Earth stood on the edge of destiny. Admiral Cooper initiated long-dormant systems. Across Mercury, Luna, Titan, and beyond the Kuiper Belt, every colony received the same words. The battle for humanity's freedom was about to begin. Jake Sullivan took one last look at the alien armada suspended in the void, like vultures circling their prey. Ambassador Zathara assumed humanity would kneel before overwhelming force and superior technology. But surrender had never been in Earth's nature. Humanity had learned to fight until nothing was left to resist. The UEE's Defiant shifted its heading toward the looming vessels, weapons charging, shields rising. Behind it emerged the Shadow Fleet, Admiral Cooper's hidden legacy, forged in silence and secrecy. Humanity's response to integration would be carved in flame and iron, scorched across the stars. The galaxy was about to discover why humans had dominated their own world before ever touching the void. Dr. Sam Walker crouched silently behind reinforced glass, observing the alien delegates consume the meals prepared for them. Zathara of the Velnari ate with exaggerated care, methodical and slow. Every movement screamed nervous energy, like prey cautiously approaching a watering hole, scanning for threats. Sam had spent 3 long days monitoring the visitors. What he uncovered was reshaping humanity's assumptions about the Confederation. The 12 species, for all their elegance, shared core instincts. Wide eyes adapted for peripheral vision, flinching group behavior when startled. Every sign pointed to creatures evolved to survive by running. And perhaps most crucial, they simply could not grasp human hostility. Colonel Amy Foster stood close to Sam, her eyes locked on the real-time tactical displays pouring in from cloaked sensors across the system. Her teams had worked non-stop to complete Earth's defense web. Ghost ships drifted in silence between planets. In the belt, dormant weapon platforms flared to life. Project Pandora stirred from its decades-long slumber. The enemy fleet had swollen to more than 300 ships, yet still clung to rigid geometric formations beyond Pluto. Through Amy's interface, it became clear. They were creatures of pattern and discipline, a flawless display of precision, but fragile against an enemy that played by different rules. President Katie Ross prepared to deliver the most critical address in Earth's history. As Sam finalized his report on alien cognition, its implications were stark. The Confederation's races descended from prey species, life forms conditioned by fear to submit, not resist. Their entire culture hinged on order and domination. They couldn't comprehend why humans stood defiant against hopeless odds. In their experience, the weaker always accepted integration rather than risk annihilation. Destruction. Never had they faced a species that became more dangerous when cornered. They had never encountered persistence predators, beings who chased their quarry until it collapsed from sheer exhaustion. Amy coordinated seamlessly with Allied military forces across the system as the final day of the 72-hour deadline ticked down. Captain Ben Turner checked in from Mars orbit. His railgun arrays were charged, locked, and ready. Major Diana Bell confirmed that strike teams stationed in the asteroid belt had already infiltrated deep behind enemy patrol lines. Every weapon, built in secret, was now locked onto the alien fleet. Dr. Elena Cruz continued dissecting the technology recovered from the Confederation's diplomatic shuttle. Human engineers had long mastered the art of repurposing foreign systems, and these alien designs were no exception. Within hours, Elena's team deciphered the foundations of their shield matrices and FTL drives. But even more vital were the weaknesses they uncovered. The Confederation's energy shields were optimized to block directed energy, but showed vulnerability to kinetic impacts. Their faster-than-light drives required extremely precise gravitational readings, making them susceptible to interference from mass driver attacks. Most crucially, their communications relied on quantum entanglement relays, fragile systems that could destabilize under targeted electromagnetic interference. President Katie Ross stood before the concealed broadcasting terminal that would transmit Earth's message to every world within the Confederation. The alien envoys were expecting a surrender, perhaps even a desperate appeal. Instead, they were about to hear something no prey species had ever dared to say. Sam Walker monitored Ambassador Zakara through the surveillance feed as President Ross began her address. The alien's reaction was instant and revealing. Wide eyes widened. Further, defensive reflexes triggered, and alarm signals passed instinctively to nearby Confederation diplomats. The mere idea of defiance caused visible stress. Katie Ross delivered humanity's declaration with composed defiance that rippled across space and reached 12 alien homeworlds. Humans would not yield, Earth would remain free, and humanity would claim its place among the stars as equals, not subjects. The Confederation could choose peaceful cooperation or war. Amy Foster received final confirmations from all hidden platforms. Railguns powered, missile tubes armed, stealth ships in final positions. Admiral Cooper's secret arsenal was now ready to reveal itself to the galaxy. The alien reply came within minutes. Ambassador Zakara's tone had shifted beyond formality. The Confederation could not permit such rebellion to inspire others. If Earth refused submission, then it would be silenced by force. The battle fleet began its advance toward the inner system. Dr. Sam Walker logged their movement patterns as Elena Cruz completed her tactical assessments. The enemy approached with rigid, orderly formations. No deception, no misdirection. They counted on superior tech to crush resistance within hours, but they had never met an enemy who had studied their flaws. Captain Ben Turner launched humanity's first strike in the Galactic War from Mars Platform 7. A kinetic slug reached 15% light speed before colliding with the Confederation flagship. The alien vessel vanished in an instant, torn apart, as its advanced shielding failed to resist raw speed and mass. Amy Foster observed the reaction via tactical sensors. The fleet's coordination crumbled as their command vanished. Instead of adjusting tactics or retreating to defensive positions, the remaining ships grouped tighter, like panicked herd animals. Their doctrine favored unity over improvisation, useful for control, disastrous against predators trained to exploit fear. Commander Jake Sullivan led the first assault wave from hidden asteroid belt hangars. His pilots were masters of stealth and ambush tactics. They moved with predatory grace, striking fast, vanishing faster. The alien ships struggled to track, opponents who refused to obey their combat norms. As the fight spread across the outer system, Earth's arsenal revealed itself. Mass drivers launched asteroids into enemy lines. Cloaked ships emerged without warning to deliver crippling attacks. Every system was built with one goal: exploiting the psychological soft points Dr. Walker had identified in prey-based species. President Ross monitored the battlefield from Earth's command hub. Sam Walker relayed real-time analysis as the alien armada faltered under the relentless assault. The species that had once ruled the stars now learned what it meant to be pursued by predators who never stopped. Lieutenant Commander Grace Kelly yanked her fighter into a tight spin behind a drifting asteroid, alien beams slicing empty space behind her. The Confederation fleet had recovered from the flagship's loss, but their battle logic remained sluggish. They targeted where her ship had been, not where it would be, like hunters who never learned to lead a shot. Grace's squadron danced through the asteroid field like sharks in a coral reef. Alien ships floundered in the same terrain. Built for clean, open space, they were too large and rigid to adapt. To Earth's pilots, the debris was home. Commander Troy Adams watched the first alien landers descend on the moon. They moved with ceremonial precision, columns of soldiers marching in perfect lines. But the moment Earth's defenders opened fire from camouflaged positions, the formation shattered. The aliens had never seen guerrilla warfare, had never fought an enemy that refused their idea of order. The B-type alien infantry stood taller, wielded energy weapons, and looked terrifying. But they flinched like prey when fired upon. They dove for cover, radioed for support rather than pressing forward. Human Marines exploited their hesitation, emerging from tunnels and bunkers the aliens never scanned. Dr. Elena Cruz worked furiously in her Mars lab as detonations echoed overhead from the orbital stations. Her team had unlocked the theory behind the alien tech. Now they had to turn knowledge into weapons. Human engineers had always been more dangerous when breaking things than building them. Elena's key breakthrough came when she discovered the alien shields used harmonic resonances, vulnerable to tuned EMPs. Within hours, engineers had added new attachments to existing weaponry. Even more critical, she had figured out how to overload alien reactors by reflecting their own power through shield feedback loops. Grace led another raid, this time on an enemy cruiser drifting too close to the belt. Her squadron descended on it like hornets. The alien point defense fired wildly, unable to predict human flight patterns. They expected rigid formations and layered strikes. What they got were chaotic, weaving predators. Their shields held for a few seconds, until Elena's EMP payloads hit. The protective bubble collapsed, and conventional kinetic rounds shredded the cruiser's hull like it was paper. A vessel hundreds of times the size of its attackers broke apart under a storm of fire from ships barely 1% its mass. On Mars, Commander Troy Adams coordinated system-wide defenses. Earth's strategy wasn't brute force, it was asymmetric dominance. Augmented troops moved through vast tunnel networks beneath human bases. They emerged behind enemy drop zones, targeting supply routes and comm relays before fading into the darkness. The aliens had never imagined warriors who altered their own biology to win. Cybernetic enhancements gave humans faster reflexes, greater strength, and brutal efficiency. But what unnerved the alien generals most was this: humans accepted losses without hesitation, so long as they won. Admiral Cooper initiated humanity's first full-scale counterattack from hidden bases orbiting Jupiter's moons. Human ships erupted from the shadows like phantoms out of legend. Their stealth systems were crude by alien standards. But they worked, because the Confederation never imagined an attack would come from there. Confederation flagship, the alien vessel disintegrated instantly, its shields useless against mass and velocity. Amy Foster watched through tactical sensors as the alien fleet reacted to the loss of their command ship. Instead of adapting or seeking cover, the remaining vessels clustered together like frightened animals. Their training emphasized group cohesion over tactical flexibility, perfect for maintaining order, but disastrous when facing predators who understood pack hunting. Commander. Jake Sullivan led the first wave of human fighters from hidden asteroid bases. His pilots had trained for years in stealth tactics and hit-and-run assaults. They moved like wolves, stalking prey, while the alien ships struggled to fight an enemy that ignored Confederation rules. The battle spread across the outer solar system, as human weapons revealed themselves one by one. Mass drivers hurled asteroids at alien formations. Stealth ships struck from nowhere. Every weapon was crafted to exploit the psychological weaknesses Dr. Walker had identified in prey species. President Ross monitored from Earth's command center while Sam provided real-time analysis of alien behavior. The Confederation fleet was already showing signs of panic as its formation collapsed. Species that had ruled for millennia were learning what it meant to be hunted by predators evolved never to give up. CMDR Grace Kelly pulled her fighter into a tight spin behind a tumbling asteroid as alien beams flashed past her cockpit. The fleet had recovered from the shock of losing their flagship, but their tactics remained clumsy. They fired where she'd been, not where she was going, like hunters who never learned to lead their targets. Her squadron used the asteroid, built like a 3D maze, while the aliens floundered through debris. Human pilots had trained in this environment for years. The Confederation vessels, built for open space, were helpless in the rocks, massive, rigid, and exposed. Commander Troy Adams watched from his Mars post as the first alien landing forces moved on the lunar surface. The enemy troops marched in, perfect lines like parade soldiers, but their formations collapsed the moment human defenders opened fire from hidden positions. These aliens had never faced guerrilla warfare or enemies who refused to fight fair. They were larger and wielded advanced energy weapons, but they showed the same prey instincts as their commanders. When attacked, they sought cover and called for reinforcements instead of pushing forward. Human Marines exploited this hesitation, appearing from tunnels and bunkers the aliens never thought to check. Dr. Elena Cruz worked frantically in her Mars lab as explosions echoed through orbital stations. Her team had reverse-engineered basic alien tech, but now had to weaponize those discoveries before the next enemy wave arrived. Humans had always been better at breaking things than the species who built them. Elena's breakthrough came when she discovered Confederation shields relied on harmonic frequencies that could be disrupted by tuned electromagnetic pulses. Within hours, human weapons were being refitted with shield breaker attachments. More critically, she found that alien power systems could be overloaded by feeding their own energy back through their shield generators. Grace Kelly's squadron tested the theory on a cruiser that strayed too close to the asteroid belt. Human fighters swarmed like wasps, while the cruiser's point defense systems struggled to track their erratic movements. The alien gunners expected formation attacks, easily countered by overlapping fire, but Grace's team fought like chaos incarnate. The cruiser's shields collapsed under Elena's new EMP bursts, and kinetic rounds tore through its armor, like paper. The massive ship broke apart under sustained fire from fighters less than 1% its size. Commander Adams coordinated Mars' defense as cybernetically enhanced human teams moved through tunnel networks linking every outpost. They appeared behind alien landing zones, destroyed supply lines, and vanished. The Confederation had never encountered enemies who modified their own bodies for combat. Human soldiers with enhanced reflexes and augmented strength moved faster and hit harder than anything the aliens had faced. But what truly disturbed them was humanity's readiness to accept casualties as long as the mission succeeded. Admiral Cooper launched the first counteroffensive from hidden shipyards the aliens had never detected. Human vessels emerged from Jupiter's moons like ghosts. Their stealth tech was primitive by alien standards, but it worked, because the Confederation never expected prey species to hunt their hunters. The human fleet struck alien supply convoys and communication relays instead of the main fleets. Cooper understood their rigid hierarchies collapsed when command networks were cut. Without leaders, alien ships became confused, like sheep without shepherds. Grace Kelly's squadron noted that alien pilots grew more desperate over time. Their energy weapons required precise aim, which failed when humans attacked from all directions. The Confederation trained for formation battles, not individual combat. Dr. Cruz's second breakthrough came when alien prisoners revealed the location of their main communications hub, coordinating fleet movements across 12 species. Destroying it would blind the enemy entirely. Troy Adams received reports showing that enemy morale was fracturing. Alien soldiers surrendered when cornered. Ships retreated when resistance stiffened. Prey psychology made them vulnerable to psychological warfare, something humans instinctively understood. The turning point came when Cooper's fleet struck the communication station. Human ships attacked from all angles using Elena's shield disruptors. The massive hub exploded like a dying star as alien signals screamed for help that never came. Grace Kelly led the final assault on scattered, leaderless battle groups. Human fighters moved like pack hunters, isolating targets and destroying them one by one. With their networks down, the aliens couldn't coordinate defense or retreat. Commander Sullivan arrived aboard the UEE's Defiant as the last resistance, collapsed near Neptune's orbit. The Confederation fleet that came to pacify Earth was shattered and fleeing. Some ships still moving broadcast surrender signals. Others drifted, powerless and broken. They had expected a quick suppression mission, primitive natives bowing to superior tech. Instead, they met persistent predators who turned every disadvantage into a weapon. The war was far from over, but humanity had proven they belonged among the stars, not as prey, but as hunters. Captain Diana Bell stood on the bridge of the UES Hunter as her strike force dropped out of hyperspace, behind enemy lines in the heart of Confederation space. Jake Sullivan stared at the alien fleet poised in orbit like carrion birds waiting for a corpse. Ambassador Zthara assumed humanity would kneel before superior numbers and technology. But humans had never learned to surrender. They had mastered fighting until nothing remained standing. The UEE's Defiant pivoted toward the invaders, weapons charging, shields rising. From behind them emerged Admiral Cooper's hidden fleet, crafted in silence and secrecy. This was humanity's reply to the so-called integration protocol, written in fire, delivered in steel, echoed across the vacuum. The galaxy was about to understand how humans had earned their dominion on Earth before ever reaching for the stars. Dr. Sam Walker crouched behind an observation window, watching the alien delegation eat their carefully prepared meals. Ambassador Zthara of the Velnari moved slowly, every bite cautious, like a prey animal sniffing for predators at the water's edge. Sam had spent 3 days studying their behavior, and what he'd uncovered reshaped everything humanity assumed about interstellar civilization. All 12 species of the Confederation displayed similar evolutionary traits: wide-set eyes for peripheral vision, group clustering when startled, rigid behavioral hierarchies. Most telling of all, they couldn't comprehend human aggression. Not truly. Beside Sam stood Colonel Amy Foster, analyzing tactical feeds from hidden sensors across the system. Her Black Ops teams had worked without rest, deploying stealth ships between planetary shadows and activating automated weapon platforms buried in the asteroid belt. Project Pandora, Earth's long-buried defense doctrine, was finally breathing. The alien fleet beyond Pluto numbered over 300 ships, but Amy saw the flaw in their formation. Precise spacing, predictable patrol arcs. They moved like a coordinated school of fish, not a military armada. Beautiful, yet utterly exposed to a predator unbound by rules. Meanwhile, President Katie Ross prepared the most consequential address in human history. As Dr. Walker finalized his psychological profile, one truth emerged. The Confederation species were all descended from prey. Their civilizations were built on avoiding conflict through rigid hierarchy and submission. They could not fathom why. Humans refused to yield. In their history, lesser species always bowed to superior force. Always, until now. The humans struck not at the alien battle groups, but at the lifelines, supply convoys, communication nodes, isolated staging areas. Cooper understood their enemy relied on fragile command structures. Sever the nerve centers, and their fleets collapsed into confusion. Alien vessels without centralized orders floated lost, sheep without shepherds. Commander Grace Kelly's squadrons learned firsthand that alien pilots panicked under pressure. Their energy weapons packed a punch but demanded precision. Precision they lost when Kelly's fighters swarmed from multiple vectors. The Confederation had trained for fleet warfare, not the chaotic ballet of individual close-range combat. Against nimble, unpredictable foes, they crumbled. Dr. Elena Cruz achieved a breakthrough when alien POWs revealed the location of a massive communications hub in the outer system. The station directed fleet movements across 12 species. Destroy it, and the enemy would be blind. Reports poured in to Troy Adams. Morale across the Confederation was fracturing. Troops surrendered when cornered. Ships retreated when faced with determined resistance. Human psychological warfare, rooted in instinct, history, and raw experience, was breaking their will to fight. Then came the turning point. Cooper's Ghost Fleet emerged from deep space, targeting the comm station. With Elena's new shield-piercing tech, human ships struck from multiple directions, bypassing defenses that had never faced such tactics. The alien station died in a blaze of ruin, its final transmissions frantic calls for aid that would never arrive. Grace Kelly led the charge against the disoriented remnants scattered across Neptune's orbit. Human fighters isolated targets and took them apart. Efficient, merciless, leaderless, and blind, the Confederation fleet tried to escape, but found only defeat. Jake Sullivan arrived, aboard the Defiant as the last resistance collapsed. Alien ships limped toward the stars, broadcasting surrender signals. Others drifted powerless. What was meant to be a swift suppression had become humiliation. The Confederation had expected docile primitives. Instead, they met predators who learned from every skirmish and turned weakness into teeth. Captain Diana Bell stood on the bridge of the UES Hunter as her strike force dropped from hyperspace into enemy territory. A patrol fleet guarded the Confederation's supply depot, but they never saw the attack coming. Diana's team wielded stolen alien tech with terrifying proficiency. The depot burned before reinforcements could blink. Dr. Henry Clark reviewed updated psychological profiles. Prey behavior was consistent, predictable. Panic the Velnari with food shortages. Threaten the Corvani's retreat and they'd flee. Every species had pressure points. Humans pushed them all. Colonel Paul Adams developed bioweapons keyed to alien biology, nerve agents, sterility viruses, crop killers. His team questioned the ethics. Paul reminded them, survival wasn't fair. Diana Bell struck again, this time at a secret shipyard. Her fleet tore through it from all angles, leaving molten steel and shattered code. Human strategy was clear. strike where it hurt, vanish before the screams faded. Cooper, watching from his flagship, knew the war was far from over. But the galaxy had changed. New insights into alien vulnerabilities and capabilities poured in with every clash. Each triumph granted humanity access to superior technology and critical strategic assets. But most importantly, each loss suffered by the Confederation showed the rest of the galaxy that defiance was possible. Across Confederation space, Galactic, media outlets began broadcasting clips of human combat footage, and the effect was chilling. Prey species watched in horror as humans kept fighting even while gravely wounded. Footage circulated showing crews sacrificing themselves to ensure mission success. Most unnerving were the videos of human commanders offering mercy solely when it served calculated strategic ends. Dr. Henry Clark assessed the psychological fallout these broadcasts caused among civilian populations in alien territories. Fear began to grip entire worlds that had never before witnessed true predators at war. Several planets faced societal collapse as governments scrambled to maintain authority, even while their fleets retreated from advancing human forces. Meanwhile, General Maria Santos coordinated Operation Nemesis from her command hub on Mars, positioning strike teams across Confederation territory. The strategy was simple, yet catastrophic. Coordinated assaults on all 12 alien home systems would drive home the terrifying truth. No place in the galaxy was beyond humanity's reach. The intended message was unmistakable. Diana Bell, now a seasoned strike commander, received her Operation Nemesis objective, and a chill crept through her. Her target was the Velnari home world, guarded by defensive platforms capable of annihilating entire fleets. But conquest wasn't her mission. Her goal was to dismantle their ability to coordinate, and more importantly, to shatter their will to resist. Sometimes the mere threat of annihilation outweighed actual destruction. In parallel, Paul Adams prepared to load his tailored bioweapons onto the strike fleet. These weapons wouldn't kill alien civilians, but they would unmistakably prove humanity's capacity to exterminate entire species if ever forced to. The psychological blow alone would be more decisive than any battlefield success. Henry Clark continued intercepting alien communications as frantic distress signals erupted across the Confederation. Human raiders had launched attacks on every front, and alien command networks buckled under the unrelenting pressure. Civilizations that had held dominance for millennia were now learning the despair of being relentlessly hunted by apex predators with no concept of retreat. Operation Nemesis officially began when Diana Bell's force emerged in orbit above the Nari home world. Her fleet didn't open fire on population centers. Instead, they surgically eliminated every defense satellite and communication node in system. A message was delivered via emergency channels that still functioned, addressed directly to the planetary leadership. General Maria Santos's voice echoed across every alien capital, transmitting a unified demand to all 12 member governments simultaneously. Humanity required the immediate dissolution of the Confederation and full recognition of human sovereignty across all galactic sectors. Any civilization that chose continued resistance would see its military strength and economic lifelines obliterated without hesitation. This wasn't a request for parity. It was a declaration of dominance and a warning. The true victory came when civilians looked skyward and saw human ships poised in orbit above their birth worlds, hanging like unsheathed blades inches from striking. Not a single shot needed to be fired. Prey instincts comprehended the message perfectly. The predators had arrived at their sacred strongholds and proved that no sanctuary could shield them. These were no longer rumors or distant conflicts. This was real. This was now. And it was unavoidable. Meanwhile, Ambassador Rachel Price walked silently through the cavernous halls of the former Confederation Council chambers, located on the neutral station orbiting Kepler Prime. The once grand structure had served as the command, Nexus for Galactic Authority, where 12 alien powers governed over hundreds of lesser worlds. Now, New intelligence on alien vulnerabilities and capabilities shifted the balance. Each human triumph unlocked access to superior technology and key strategic assets. Most crucially, every Confederation loss showed the galaxy that resistance wasn't futile. Galactic media aired combat footage of human troops in action, and the imagery horrified prey species across known space. Videos displayed humans fighting despite grievous injuries. Some recordings showed crews willingly sacrificing themselves to complete mission objectives. Most chilling were the instances where human commanders showed mercy only when it offered a tactical advantage. Dr. Henry Clark studied the psychological toll these broadcasts inflicted on civilian populations throughout Confederation territory. Fear was rising among species who had never seen predators unleashed. Some worlds descended into chaos as their governments tried and failed to maintain order, even as their defense fleets retreated from the human offensive. From her war room on Mars, General Maria Santos finalized Operation Nemesis while human strike forces fanned out across Confederation space. The strategy was simple but brutal. A synchronized assault on all 12 alien home systems would demonstrate that no corner of the galaxy was beyond humanity's reach. The message would be unmistakable. Diana Bell received her assignment and felt a chill down her spine. Her target was the Velnari homeworld, defended by orbital weapons capable of annihilating fleets. But conquest wasn't the objective. Her mission was to shatter the enemy's coordination and erode their will to resist. Sometimes the shadow of annihilation was more powerful than actual destruction. Paul Adams oversaw the loading of bioweapons onto the fleet bound for alien homeworlds. These agents wouldn't harm civilians, but they would send a clear signal. Humanity had the capacity to end entire species if forced to. Psychological devastation would be more valuable than kinetic damage. Clark continued monitoring Alien. Transmissions as reports streamed in. Human assault teams were hitting dozens of targets at once, breaking down enemy command across the board. Civilizations that had dominated for millennia now understood what it meant to be hunted, by predators who never gave up and never showed fear. Operation Nemesis launched in earnest when Diana Bell's task force entered orbit over the Nari homeworld. They didn't fire on the planet. Instead, they eliminated every military satellite and communications hub in system. A message was transmitted via still-functional emergency channels directly to the planetary leadership. Maria Santos addressed all alien governments at once with an ultimatum that echoed across the stars. The Confederation would dissolve, and human sovereignty would be recognized across the galaxy. Any continued defiance would result in the destruction of all military and economic infrastructure. Humanity wasn't asking for equality. They were demanding total submission from their former rulers. The psychological war reached its apex as alien civilians stared upward at human warships floating in orbit like blades poised to fall. Even without a single shot fired, prey species grasped the threat. The predators had reached their sacred skies, and nothing could stop them. On a station above Kepler Prime, Ambassador Rachel Price walked solemnly through the abandoned halls of the once mighty Confederation Council. New intelligence on alien vulnerabilities and capabilities shifted the balance. Each human triumph unlocked access to superior technology and key strategic assets. Most crucially, every Confederation loss showed the galaxy that resistance wasn't futile. Galactic media aired combat footage of human troops in action, and the imagery horrified prey species across known space. Videos displayed humans fighting despite grievous injuries. Some recordings showed crews willingly sacrificing themselves to complete mission objectives. Most chilling were the instances where human commanders showed mercy only when it offered a tactical advantage. Dr. Henry Clark studied the psychological toll these broadcasts inflicted on civilian populations throughout Confederation territory. Fear was rising among species who had never seen predators unleashed. Some worlds descended into chaos as their governments tried and failed to maintain order, even as their defense fleets retreated from the human offensive. From her war room on Mars, General Maria Santos finalized Operation Nemesis while human strike forces fanned out across Confederation space. The strategy was simple but brutal. A synchronized assault on all 12 alien home systems would demonstrate that no corner of the galaxy was beyond humanity's reach. The message would be unmistakable. Diana Bell received her assignment and felt a chill down her spine. Her target was the Velnari homeworld, defended by orbital weapons capable of annihilating fleets. But conquest wasn't the objective. Her mission was to shatter the enemy's coordination and erode their will to resist. Sometimes the shadow of annihilation was more powerful than actual destruction. Paul Adams oversaw the loading of bioweapons onto the fleet bound for alien homeworlds. These agents wouldn't harm civilians, but they would send a clear signal. Humanity had the capacity to end entire species if forced to. Psychological devastation would be more valuable than kinetic damage. Clark continued monitoring Alien. Transmissions as reports streamed in. Human assault teams were hitting dozens of targets at once, breaking down enemy command across the board. Civilizations that had dominated for millennia now understood what it meant to be hunted, by predators who never gave up and never showed fear. Operation Nemesis launched in earnest when Diana Bell's task force entered orbit over the Nari homeworld. They didn't fire on the planet. Instead, they eliminated every military satellite and communications hub in system. A message was transmitted via still-functional emergency channels directly to the planetary leadership. Maria Santos addressed all alien governments at once with an ultimatum that echoed across the stars. The Confederation would dissolve, and human sovereignty would be recognized across the galaxy. Any continued defiance would result in the destruction of all military and economic infrastructure. Humanity wasn't asking for equality. They were demanding total submission from their former rulers. The psychological war reached its apex as alien civilians stared upward at human warships floating in orbit like blades poised to fall. Even without a single shot fired, prey species grasped the threat. The predators had reached their sacred skies, and nothing could stop them. On a station above Kepler Prime, Ambassador Rachel Price walked solemnly through the abandoned halls of the once mighty Confederation Council.